Welcome to Kairos Research Center podcast. Christian faith seeking understanding, intellectual witness, and spiritual renewal.
Why then is the fine-tuning not by chance?
You should ask stronger. Why can't the fine-tuning?
So why is the fine-tuning not by chance?
Or when you talk about chance, you talk about probability, you talk about numbers, this is not likely because it's 1 to over 10 to the power x or something like that. So we're talking about numbers. So, or rather numbers that describe certain features in the universe. So Martin Rees, in his book called Just 6 Numbers, he's a very famous astronomer who dealt with formation of galaxies. He says you can describe the world as very crucially depending on these 6 numbers. A number n, which is the ratio of the strength of the gravity to that of the electromagnetism. Some of you who are not into science, these will be new terms. Or epsilon. Epsilon is a Greek letter, which talks about the ratio of the mass loss when the hydrogen atoms come together. 2 hydrogen atoms come together and fuse into helium. He uses the word omega, which will describe whether the universe will expand. The word lambda. Lambda is actually a famous word applied by Einstein, who used it wrongly and said, this is the greatest mistake I made in my life. So some of these numbers themselves describe very special qualities that the universe must conform to in order that life may emerge. In other words, cannot be by chance. Let me elaborate a bit. For example, you talk about gravity. These are called fine-tuning parameters or cosmological constants. When we deal with physics, certain numbers appear in all the equations, constant numbers. Constant numbers that we do not deduce, but constant number that we measure.
Just exists there.
It's there. We do our experiment, we solve our equation, the numbers will appear. And they have to be very precise number. There's this thing called the gravitational force constant. For example, if it's too weak by 1 over 10 to the power of 34. We talk about power. People don't understand. We're talking about hyperbolic numbers. 1 over 10 to the power 2, 1 over 100. No problem. 1 over 10 to the power 6, 1 to the power 1 million. No problem. As you increase the number of the 10 power, it becomes unimaginable.
34 means 34 zero behind it.
That's right. 1 over 10 to the power. If it's too strong, the stars cannot form. If it's just a bit too weak, the stars will burn up too quickly. Then you have the cosmological constant, which will determine whether the universe will expand or collapse. Now this one is if it is 10 to the power 1 over 10 to the power 120. Now to put things in context, if I may put so, the number of atoms in the universe. Number of atoms in the universe, already if you have any idea about the size of the universe, it's a huge number. But you're not talking about the universe, you're talking about the number of atoms is 10 to the power 80. And all these chances are more than the numbers in the universe. So if the cosmological constant, it goes by a little bit too low, 1 over 10 to the power 120, more than the number of atoms in the universe, then there will be no expansion of the universe.
It's as if there's a fine-tuning there, right?
Super fine-tuning, if I may say. For example, in order for the universe to expand and allow life, Roger Penrose, who was a collaborator with Stephen Hawking on this black holes kind of equation, he came up with some calculations that if the initial entropy is a physics word to describe either the order or disorder that is present in the physical system. He says the universe has to have a beginning of very low entropy. Otherwise, we wouldn't have the conditions that allow for the building blocks of life from hydrogen to helium to carbon. And that is also another big issue. And then on to the other proteins. So if there is a difference of 1 over 10 to the power of 10 to the power of 123. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. Life would not have been possible. So this is, you talk about chance. Sheer chance in all practical terms is that it cannot happen. But it happened. Why does it happen? Why do these conditions come together? It has to be some kind of fine-tuning. And we're talking about the global scale. Now, if you read a book by I don't have it yet, by Hugh Ross, the creator and the cosmos, he will give the planetary condition must also be ngam, you know. This is called the Goldilocks zone. You know, you read the story of Goldilocks and the bears. One is too hot, one is too cold, the other one is ngam, you know. So the Earth has to be just in the right position in the solar system. Too near, it becomes like Mars, too hot, like Venus. A bit further, it will be Mars, you cannot have life. And then, interestingly, we have the giant planets, Jupiter, Saturn. What are they? Actually, they're actually called rubbish collector for the solar system. We are always bombarded by all the meteorites and so on. So you have a conveniently bigger mess, much bigger mess with gravity to pull away all these meteorites and meteor, so that otherwise the Earth will be without protection, and then we'll be bombarded until there's no life. You know, even the position of the moon is just right to stabilize the rotation of the sun. It gives just the right amount of tidal forces, so that the temperature will be properly controlled. So I can go on and on and on this. But
why is this important for Christianity? What's the implication of this fine tuning?
Okay, let me just put one more item first.
Okay.
If you know the location of the solar system within the local galaxy, we are just at the outer edge of the spiral. No? Of the spiral galaxy. If you're in the middle, there'll be too many, we've all sucked up by all the black holes already. So now, what am I trying to say? Now, at one level, the critics of fine tuning argues that we are simply looking at the world in a very biased way, and then we don't need to explain this, because we don't need to appeal to the creator, because nature by chance can produce life as we see. But our answer is, yeah, theoretically can, but in practice, looking at all the odds against just the right configuration of all these factors, which with the slightest difference will make life impossible. So it cannot be by chance. It's actually impossible chance multiplied by impossible chance multiplied by impossible chance. So merely to appeal to random causation and chance is a desperate attempt, I would say. But for the Christian, he looks around and he says, wow, this world is so intricately designed, you know. But it also basically, if I may say, explains.
So it means there must be a fine tuner.
For the Christian, there must be a fine tuner, but basically that's what it is. I would say it's not just the Christian. If I may just even quote Stephen Hawking's Brief History of Time, on page 125, I just read
125.
Page 125. He says here, the laws of science, as we know them at present, contain many fundamental numbers, like the size of the electric charge of the electron and the ratio of the masses of the proton and the electron. The remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. For example, if the electric charge, so basically I just said, he acknowledges, you know. For example, if the electric charge of the electron had been slightly different, the stars of either would have been unable to burn hydrogen or helium and so on. Then he says, so having listed all these examples, he says, nevertheless, it seems clear that there are relatively few ranges of values for the numbers that would allow the development of any form of intelligent life. Most sets of values would give rise to universes that, although they might be very beautiful, would contain no one able to wonder at that beauty. One can take this either as evidence of a divine purpose in creation, and the choice of the law of science, or as a support for the strong anthropic principle. The strong anthropic principle is basically what some of these atheists say, no, the universe just happened to evolve to allow observers like us to discover these amazing facts. Anyway, and this actually illustrates this example. I always use the phrase, two men look through prison bars. One sees mud, the other sees stars. So the Christians look at the universe and say, we see stars. The universe is fine-tuned. The non-believers say, no, it's all mud.
Okay.